What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for Sports. So earlier today, man, I was listening to Ticket TV's live stream, was watching it, and there was debate in the chat about whether or not Ray Allen was a superstar. All right, and there was a particular person there. I'm not going to say his name that said that he thought that you know Ray Allen wasn't a superstar, and this is my take on that. Right, I'm gonna get to the point of this video in a minute. To me, I think a lot of people, because Ray Allen played a lot more playoff games as a Celtic and a Heat, and it's fresher in our memories, people tend to remember Ray Allen as just a catch and shoot guy. When in reality, in his heyday with the Milwaukee Bucks and the Seattle Supersonics, not only was he a catch and shoot guy, but he used to shoot the mid range a lot, and he was also a guy that could put the ball on the floor and take it to the basket. He was actually, for a while, a guy also remembered for his athletic ability. He would be a slasher and he'd take it to the cup. One of the more memorable dunks I can think of is when Ray Allen dunked on none other than Tracy McGrady. And you can look it up on YouTube. This was not a guy that just was shooting like just a catch and shoot player. Not that there's anything wrong with that either, but people got to remember at one point in time, yeah, Ray Allen was a superstar player. Okay, but what really drew my ire is when this same guy said Dominique Wilkins was not a superstar. Okay, let me give you a baseline as to how I look at things because he said that we overrating what a superstar is. Now, to me, a scrub, an absolute scrub of a player, is somebody like Anthony Bennett or Adam Morrison or Keith Kloss. Those are fucking bums. Okay, your standard role player to me is somebody like Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr. And Steve Kerr was a great role player. He was great in that role. Your standard starter to me is John Paxson. Okay, uh, very reliable in most instances. John Paxson. Okay, your good starter, like a really good starter. Ooh, I'd say somebody like maybe maybe Rodney Rogers. Okay, Rodney Rogers was a good starter, really good starting player in the NBA for many years, right? A player that is on an all-star level, right? Or he could be an all-star would be somebody like maybe Mo Williams or even the Wizard, Walt Williams, who played many years in the NBA in the 90s and early 2000s, right? That's a guy that at his best would be at an all-star level. But a superstar is something different from every player that I named. The scrubs can't do it. The role players can do it in certain moments. The good players could do it in certain games. But a superstar can carry a team on a consistent basis, night after night after night, and can carry a team. Of course, he's going to have some help. Nobody can do it by themselves. You're not going to have a superstar and four bums and win a championship. It's just not going to happen. But it is the superstar that primarily takes the team on his back, put a team on his back, excuse me, and can take the team to the playoffs and oftentimes have deeper playoff runs than is anticipated. The superstar player, generally speaking, cannot be stopped by any defensive scheme. You just have to hope that he's having a bad shooting night. See, a defense can stop, obviously, a bum. They could stop a role player. They could even stop most good players. They'll have a lot of trouble stopping an all-star, but you can never stop a superstar player. He's going to get his points or whatever it is he's trying to do. He's going to achieve the objective. Maybe even slow him down one game, but a superstar will never be stopped in a 7-game series, and that's Dominique Wilkins. Dominique Wilkins was a superstar. Any notion that he was not is stupid. Dominique Wilkins did not have the all-around talent around him that other stars in the 80s and early 90s had. Even Michael Jordan, who won probably more with less talent than other superstars or legendary players, I guess I should say, in the history of the NBA. Even he had more talent around him than Dominique Wilkins. Dominique Wilkins' best teammates was probably somebody like Doc Rivers, maybe Kevin Willis. Um, pretty much, you know what I'm saying? He did not have a great team around him. John Concac was not a great center. Antoine Carr was good, really good, but he didn't have that championship team. I'm not saying Dominique Wilkins was perfect. He was a bit of a volume shooter. He couldn't shoot outside very well when he first got in here. He wasn't known as a lockdown defender. I don't think he was terrible, but he wasn't a lockdown defender. He was not a great passer, you know. But for what he did, which is put asses in the seats and be the human highlight reel. How can you not be a superstar and your fucking nickname is the human highlight reel? Are you kidding me? And he could not be stopped from 1984 to 1994, a 10-year window. Dominique Wilkins averaged 28 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists for a 10-year window. We remember Dominique Wilkins in '88 for having that memorable performance in that 7-game series against the Boston Celtics. Now, that series was pretty much the last gasp of prime Larry Bird. Afterward, he would have surgery for bone spurs and his back issues were getting worse. And while he would come back and play for a couple more years, he was never the same Larry Bird again. But he played Larry Bird almost to a stalemate in that game 7. And Wilkins had 47 points. Something that gets lost in that game, something that gets forgotten, is that while Dominique Wilkins was guarding Larry Bird was not guarding Dominique Wilkins. And I think had he been guarding Dominique Wilkins, Wilkins might have scored 67 instead of 47 points that night. And also, Dominique Wilkins was always compared to his airness, Michael Jordan. There was, for a little while at least, a debate about which was the better player. Now, ultimately, it was decided it was Jordan. But the fact that he was even being compared to Michael Jordan goes to show you he was a superstar. He was definitely a superstar. And in fact, in the 40 something games he played against Michael Jordan, he averaged 29.8 points, almost 7 rebounds, and almost 3 assists per game against Michael Jordan. All right. He won 2 slam dunk titles, 85 and 1990. Most will tell you in 1988 he should have won the slam dunk contest against Michael Jordan, but Jordan got some home cooking, being that the game was in Chicago and being that that the All Star game was in Chicago, the event was in Chicago, and Michael Jordan was the hometown kid. All right. A lot of people had issues with Dominique Wilkins not being on Dream Team 1 in 1992, and a lot of people, a lot of basketball savants, a lot of basketball historians were livid that Dominique Wilkins was not included in the NBA's original 50 greatest players list. But this is a guy that's not a superstar, though. And last but not least, until Kevin Durant did it, Dominique Wilkins was the only NBA player to successfully come back from an Achilles rupture. He ruptured it in the game in Philadelphia back in January of 1992, and it looked as if though it was over for the human highlight reel. Ever since January of 1991 in an All-Star game when Dominique Wilkins spazzed a wide open dunk, it began to look like Dominique was starting to fall off. By that time, Dominique was 32 years old. His athleticism was starting to go down a little bit, and a lot of people say, hey, man, he's not the same guy, man, who was considered the greatest dunker of all time before the arrival of Vince Carter. But this is something that even Kevin Durant wasn't able to do. Dominique Wilkins ruptured his Achilles in January of '92. Dominique Wilkins was back by, I believe, late November of 1992. He'd already come back. And most people didn't think he'd be able to do it. But Dominique Wilkins, even though he started off slowly, in 1992-93, he wound up averaging almost 30 points a game. He was the comeback player, the clear unanimous comeback player of the year. He averaged 29.9 points per game in his comeback season and would have won the scoring title if it wasn't for Michael Jordan averaging 32.6 points per game that year. Now, Dominique Wilkins went on to score over 26,000 points, 26,668 points. He chose to play overseas for many years. After 94, 95, he played in Greece, I believe. I know he played overseas for a couple of years. 95, 96, he played overseas. 96, 97, he came back to the NBA. But then 97, 98, he played overseas again. If you take those 2 years and consider his declining numbers, he probably would have finished with over 20, at least 28,000 points. So I'm having a hard time seeing how Dominique Wilkins was not a superstar. He was the face of the franchise for a decade. He carried a mediocre team to the playoffs consistently, and he was one of the most exciting players in the league for quite some time. Now, to say that somebody's not a superstar because they're not in movies or no, what I think's going on is that you're comparing him to what you would call an icon. Kobe Bryant's an icon. Jordan is an icon. LeBron has become, whether you like him or not, an icon. That's a whole different thing to be a cultural icon. Not many people reach that level. Outside the United States and South America, uh, Pele was an icon. In baseball, the Babe Ruth was an icon. Hank Aaron, an icon. That's something different. Harmon Killebrew was not an icon. He was a superstar and a Hall of Famer, but not an icon. So a lot of people got to be aware of the terminology that they're using. Okay. Now, was Dominique Wilkins or Reggie Miller an icon? No. Was Ray Allen an icon? No. But he was a superstar. So we got to get our terminology correct in what we're trying to say. Okay. I understand. I think I understand what he's trying to say, the subscriber. But what you're saying is what you mean is an icon, not a superstar. Tell me what you guys think.